Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed Black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen, aka Kat Wells. Kat. Hey, I want to tell a quick story. You know, I went into Starbucks this morning and the woman asked me, I don't like going to Starbucks that much, but periodically I go. And the woman asked me, you know, they asked you your name and I said, Kat. And she said, how do you spell it? No, she said a C or a K. I said, does it matter? She said, well, it's your name. I said, yeah, but you know, it's you're calling my name. Anyway, I thought that was really funny. That was like my joke. I was like, it's not a joke. It's like a funny story. Anyway, I want to say Happy New Year to all of my truth warriors and mythbusters. Before we bring on a guest, we have a very good guest, an important guest. We're going to talk about Trump executive order to revitalize urban community, his opportunity zones. We're going to talk about that with Dr. Robert Woodson. But before I get to my guest, I want to give my Truth Warriors a special offer. It's a good deal. You guys know that one of my sponsors is Sky Tacos. Oh, and I also want to mention, did you hear my new sponsor, John and Bo? Did you hear their song? I think were we playing American Dreams? Yeah, that was American Dreams. Did you hear that? So for more music from John and Bo, go to johnandbo.com. That's a good thing. They're my new sponsor. We love them. Then my other sponsor that you guys know, and you guys know I love Sky Shrimp Tacos and Tilapia Tacos. Well, they're offering something really great. They have partnered with All Set Now. Yeah, All Set Now. So you guys will get free food. That's a good thing. You get free food. You'll get $15 worth of free food if you go to allsetnow.com. You sign up, allsetnow.com. You can go and you can order from their full menu, anything you want. You guys know I like what? The shrimp tacos and the tilapia tacos and the guacamole and chips. I'm a creature of habit. That's what I always order. I recommend it highly. And, I always get the sassy sauce as extra to go on my shrimp tacos. You're going to love it. I'm like passing on something really good. I'm telling you, you're going to get hooked. Let me tell you, Barbara makes something in that sauce, sassy sauce, that makes you addicted. Because it's like once you go once, you're going to just like, oh my God, I've got to have a Sky Taco. So anyway, go to allsetnow.com, put in, you can order for the full menu and you get $15 worth of free food. You can either eat in or pick it up. And if you don't order $15 worth of free food, you get the change. So it's like I'm giving you guys something for free. I'm giving my Truth Warriors something for free. It's a good thing. And you can go to any three of their locations. Their three locations are 5303 Pico Boulevard, and then in the Marina City Club, and then 5200 Century. So we've got Inglewood area covered, we've got Mid-City LA covered, and we've got the Marina covered. So, everyone is covered, and everyone should be eating Sky Tacos. So, as I said, go to allsetnow.com, and you get $15 worth of free food, and you put in the code SKYS Tacos. How does that sound? It sounds like a good thing. Okay, so Happy New Year, as I said, and we want to talk about Trump's executive order that he signed this month for establishing opportunity and revitalization for urban communities. This is a good thing. And the perfect person to talk to about it is Dr. Robert Woodson, who is the founder of the Woodson Center And for more than 4 decades, Dr. Woodson has been considered the godfather of neighborhood empowerment, of the neighborhood empowerment movement. So Dr. Woodson is the perfect person to talk about it. So welcome, Dr. Robert Woodson, to the Naked Truth Report. Hello.
I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Okay.
Hi. This is your second time on the show. We love having you, and you're sort of like my civil rights guru because you were actually involved in the movement. Talk to me about the first thing I want to ask you, tell me, this is the first question I want to get out there. Talk to me why the civil rights movement was a failure. We discussed it before. Let's discuss it again.
Well, I would say it wasn't a failure in the sense that it accomplished some great things in terms of removing segregation, establishing voting rights, and all those things. It created an atmosphere now that we live today. I think where I parted company when it went off track, instead of moving forward from the 60s till today, instead of continuing with the same principles of not being a part of any political party but pushing for justice, I parted company when I realized that low-income blacks were not benefiting from the gains of the civil rights movement, that a lot of the opportunities that are being created were created for middle-class, well-educated blacks, but not poor blacks. For example, I demonstrated for about 3 months in Westchester, Pennsylvania, the birth home of Baird Rustin, whom I knew well. And after 3 months of demonstrating to desegregate, they hired 9 black PhD chemists. When we asked these brothers and sisters to join the movement, they said they got this job because they were qualified, not for what we did. Mm-hmm. But the people who were on the line were hairdressers, barbers, unemployed janitors. And so I realized after 2 or 3 experiences like that I was in the wrong struggle, that I didn't fight in the civil rights movement and go to jail just to open the doors of the opportunity for middle-class blacks with education. Mm-hmm. And so I began to work on behalf of low-income people of all races after that. When I realized the civil rights movement today has morphed into a race grievance industry and has become part of the Democratic Party, liberal part of the Democratic Party. And so that's where I think the civil rights movement has morphed into a race grievance industry.
And, and the evidence is indefensible. In fact, I saw a study that said that by the year 2053, Black America will be at 0 median wealth.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not everybody. You see, the biggest income gap is not between whites and blacks. It's between lower income blacks and upper income blacks. Mm-hmm. And so if racism were the culprit, then why aren't all blacks suffering equally? There was a study done by Black Enterprise in the city of Washington. Washington, D.C. has one of the most affluent groups of blacks in the country. They coexist with black children, have the highest mortality rate in Washington than anywhere in the Western Hemisphere except Haiti. So if racism were the culprit, how do you have coexisting in the same city over the last 30 to 40 years, upper income blacks whose children are going to elite Catholic schools and going on to other private schools, coexisting with children with a high mortality rate and poverty? So that's the biggest challenge we face is how do we begin to develop policies that don't just help upper income people, but help those who are most marginalized, those that are in those communities facing the greatest challenge. And I think what the president has proposed here will in fact direct capital into distressed communities that are starving of capital, that are starving of small businesses, that are starving secure places. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
So you think it's a good thing then?
I really do. What it will do, regardless of what you think, anybody thinks about the president and other areas, we have to be strategic. I look for strategic partners. And so we need to be strategic. Any minority group's participation in the American economy does not depend upon how much government welfare they receive. It is their small business formation rates.
Mm-hmm.
A healthy community should generate about 3 businesses per 1,000 people per year.
Mm-hmm.
The Asians, Koreans, Chinese, Pakistanis, all of these groups, you don't see them on unemployment compensation,
mm-hmm.
because almost a third of them are generating businesses. In the Black community, the business formation rate is about 3 per 100,000 per year.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a time in the 1920s and 1930s when our business formation rates were actually higher than whites.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge is, if we did what we had to do under conditions that were harsher then, why can't we do it today? And I think what the president is proposing, in fact, has signed into law, will go a long way to at least helping those communities, distressed communities, have access to capital so it can start small businesses and start a process of regeneration.
Well, I want to emphasize this. I want to repeat it. You said during the 20s and 30s, our Black Americans' business formation rates were in many cases higher than blacks. Let me tell you this. Higher than white America. Do you understand?
Right, between 1930 and 1940.
Right.
This was during the Depression.
Exactly.
Our marriage rate was higher than whites.
Right. So this kind of evidence, this kind of information, this is data, this is information that you cannot deny. Before integration, before the civil rights movement, before voting for the Democratic Party for 5 decades, our business formation rate and our 2-parent family rate was higher than white Americans. This is sufficient enough to say no more talk about racism. We have used that as an excuse. We have leaned on the Democrat. We're nuts, because this is so clear to me. This is so clear. This is undeniable. It's in the data. So what is wrong with Black America?
It's because I think that a lot of liberals and civil rights people have immersed us in grievance. Booker T. Washington says that there is a class of Negroes who markets in grievance. Right. If Black America loses grievance, they lose their jobs.
And what, and yet when you say these things, it's like it just washes over most Black Americans. It doesn't stick with them. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well, you look at the best-selling books written by Black scholars from Harvard and places like that. They're all grievance books.
Mm-hmm. Eric Dyson, Cornel West.
Cornel West, all of them are grievance, but they are all complaining about white racism while they are getting their money from guilt-ridden whites.
Mm-hmm.
Coates can go to Dartmouth University and tell white folks how racist they are and how privileged they are, and they give them a standing ovation and write him a check for $40,000 or give him a 35-minute speech.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, what I think, in other words, we must understand when whites were at their worst, we were at our best.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that, and I'm going to write it all over my Facebook page. When whites were at their worst, we were at our best. That sums it up perfectly. folks.
It does.
Yeah.
Let me give you another example. Again, facts.
Right.
See, I'm not presenting arguments or ideology or politics. I'm talking facts.
Exactly.
Between 1920 and 1940, just a period of 20 years, the education gap between whites in the South was 3 years. Whites had a reading level education of 8th grade education. Blacks had a 5th grade level. But in 1920, that's what they said. By 1940, that gap has closed within 6 months. Because Booker T. Washington partnered with Julius Rosenwald, the CEO of Sears, and they provided matching funds of $4.3 million. And black communities all over the South helped construct 5,000 Rosenwald schools. And we put up $4.6 million. Can you imagine what the wages were? And we built those schools. And as a consequence, the education gap in terms of expenditures, they were spending 5 times the amount of money on white education as it was black education. But that spirit of self-determination and a will to succeed was so powerful that we closed the education gap within just 20 years. And yet, black educators run schools in Washington, Chicago, Detroit, Newark, Trenton, where the per capita expenditure on education is like $13,000, run by almost all blacks. And the question is, why are young black kids failing in institutions run by their own people?
Right. I mean, you hear it, folks. You hear it, folks. I'm speaking with Robert Woodson, who is the founder of the Woodson Center. You know, why isn't Robert Woodson I know you go on C-SPAN periodically, but why isn't he on all the time with this data, with these facts? Why isn't he on MSNBC and CNN all the time with this information, this data? Why? Ask yourself why. Why isn't he on why isn't he consistently in the media saying these facts because these are things that black Americans need to know. When whites were at their worst, blacks were at their best. You need to know this. But yet, we're just so confused. I listen. They know, my truth warriors know I listen to Washington Journal, and when it's when it's hate Trump day, here come the black phone calls. Here come black folks calling. Oh, hate Trump day. Well, hate Trump day is like every other day on Washington Journal. All black folks know how to do is hate Trump. And, I even had arguments with people in my bank. I bank at One United Bank, the black bank. I had arguments with discussions, loud discussion with black people. Oh, don't you hate Trump? These are ignoramuses. They know nothing. They know no history, no data, no context. And this is why I talk about my grandfather born in 1895. So you're getting it, Robert Woodson, you're getting it from the horse's mouth, literally. I mean, is that a derogatory thing to say? I don't mean it that way. But you're getting.
Honey, you don't have to explain yourself to me. I understand.
You're getting it from the source. He was there. He was involved with the civil rights movement. So when black folks talking about, racism, this, white supremacy, this, and I even told you that Dr. Frances Cress Wellesley, who popularized the phrase white supremacy, which she got from Neely Fuller, I told you she even had like 17 things, a list of 17 things that black Americans must do. So all these black talking heads, academicians, Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, all these black news folks talking, Joanne Reed, they're useless. They're liars. They're bull crapping Americans. And who's making them do that, Mr. Woodson, Dr. Woodson? Who's making them bull crap Americans?
Well, one thing, white folks love to keep us focused on grievance because then we're not talking about economic development either. We're not, see, as long as you're protesting something, you are not building anything. You're not solving any problems.
Right.
I tell people, when someone gets invited to speak to you and they just tell you how powerful white folks are, and then they say, well, it's white privilege. Anybody who talks about white privilege is a white supremacist. If you believe that white people have the power to compel black educators to miseducate their own children by remote control, you are a white supremacist. In other words, that our forebears were able to achieve. We had 20 blacks who were born slaves who died millionaires.
And one I know was right here in Los Angeles, Biddy Mason.
Biddy Mason. I did a whole thing on Biddy Mason. There should be a movie on her life.
Right, exactly. Why don't they ever make a movie on Biddy Mason's? She was the first the first female real estate tycoon right here in Los Angeles. And she was a slave.
And the founder of the AME church there.
And she was a slave. Hello.
She had three daughters by her slave master, and she walked behind a wagon from Mississippi to Salt Lake City, delivering babies and tending to the cattle while raising her daughters. And then they moved to Los Angeles. And that's when they discovered that Los Angeles was a free state and she was free. And she saved her money and bought land downtown Los Angeles and died net worth of about $3 to $5 million.
This was a woman born a slave. Today,
could not read or write.
Couldn't read or write. Today, after spending over $3 trillion on LBJ's Great Society poverty movement, black folks make up 40% of the homeless. Go down to Skid Row. I always talk about that. We are 40% of the homeless in Los Angeles, a city where the first real estate tycoon was a slave black woman.
And her great-grandson was also one of the wealthiest. She left a legacy behind her.
What was that?
He was in real estate in the 1700s. Yeah,
not in the 1700s.
Yeah. No. I'm talking about in 19th century. He left. She was born in 1818, and she created her wealth in about the mid 1800s. And then her son, she had three daughters, and they married other free blacks. And then that grandson went on to become a real estate tycoon in Los Angeles as well.
Well, this is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So there are so many. I wrote a book some years ago called On the Road to Economic Freedom, where I just spent years collecting the blacks in business to find out what kind of wealth we created. Every city had our own hotel. When we were denied access to hotels, we bought our own.
Exactly.
In 1868. In Baltimore, 1,000 blacks were fired for striking for more wages. And what we did was not march on Washington, but we borrowed our money and started our own railroad that ran successfully for 18 years from Baltimore to Maine. It was called the Chesapeake, Maine Dry Dock and Railroad Company. And it hired back those blacks and some whites. So our young people need to know, man, again, when white folks were at their worst, we were at our best.
Exactly. I can't say that. I'm going to say that repeatedly on my Facebook page. Folks, go to the Naked Truth Report YouTube channel and subscribe to my YouTube channel, please. Also, you can go to the Naked Truth Report YouTube Facebook page and subscribe to that. So when whites were at their worst, blacks were at their best. Everyone listening to that show, just say that. Just say that. Yeah, that's like the bottom line. I don't need to say any more. That's sufficient. The evidence is clear. When whites were at their worst, blacks were at their best. That's it. You don't need to say anymore. Do you think, Jeff? My engineer is Jeff. Okay, I'm speaking with Dr. Robert Woodson, who is the founder of the Woodson Center. He is known as the godfather of the neighborhood empowerment movement. He's been working in this field for 4 decades. He knows what he's talking about. And Dr. Woodson, tell us the name of your book.
My book is, I have two, well, a couple, but the one that may be of interest to your listeners is called The Triumphs of Joseph. That's my latest book, where I use Joseph as a metaphor for the relationship between the rich and the poor, because a lot of those low-income people who achieve against the odds remind me of the Joseph in the Bible. He was treated unjustly, imprisoned, sold into slavery by his brothers until Pharaoh called him up. But if he had become bitter, God could not have used him. Even though he was treated for a decade plus unfairly, he never became a victim. Even though he was victimized, he never became a victim. And as a consequence, Pharaoh empowered him, and he became the second most powerful man in Egypt. And I use that as a metaphor for what we need to do today. We should have a partnership between the good pharaohs, wealthy, powerful people who understand their limitations and are able to reach across race and class lines to people in these neighborhoods, low-income neighborhoods, who are able to achieve against the odds. They are the answers to our problems. Whenever we look at low-income communities, we always look at 70% of the children are being raised by parents that are kids are dropping out of school in jail. That means 30% are not. We need to go into the homes of 30% of people in drug-infested, crime-ridden neighborhoods who are successfully raising children and ask, how are they doing that? And what lessons can we learn? They are the Josephs. The second book I wrote was called On the Road to Economic Freedom, where I just described their essays that describe how blacks were successful in business, what kind of businesses they were, and how they were able to accomplish what they did.
Okay, we're talking to Dr. Robert Woodson, who is known as the godfather of neighborhood empowerment movement or zones. And, we're talking about Trump's executive order for establishing opportunities and revitalization councils to revitalize urban communities. So all these black folks who are pure Trump haters, you're meaningless. You're useless. You don't know what you're talking about. We're going to take a break and we're going to open up the phone lines. So if you want to call in and ask Dr. Woodson, hey, Dr. Woodson, are you open to taking phone calls?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to hide.
Yeah, me either. We're an open book. We love the truth, and we're here to tell the truth. So we'll be right back.
Kathleen Wells, the host of the Naked Truth Report, wants to hear from you. Just like our borders, the phone lines, well, they're wide open. Call in at 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. 866-870-KRLA.
Welcome back. This is the Naked Truth Report, and I'm your host, Kathleen, a.k.a. Cat Wells. And my guest is Dr. Robert Woodson, who is the founder of the Woodson Center. Let me just acknowledge my sponsors. You were just listening to World of Hurt by John and Bo. That's our new sponsor, World of Hurt. And we heard I Like Girls in Trucks. That was the other one going out. And also I'd like to acknowledge that you can get $15 worth of free Sky food. Their shrimp tacos and tilapia tacos are fantastic, and the sassy sauce. If you go to allsetnow.com. Go to allsetnow.com. And also I'd like to acknowledge my other sponsor, USTechWorkers.org. If you're a tech worker, go check them out. USTechWorkers.org. And I didn't Pro English. Also remember Pro English. So, Dr. Woodson, talk to me about why you feel that President Trump is headed in the right way with regard to his executive order for the empowerment and revitalization of urban areas. In fact, he says in his executive order that there, how many, let's see, where did I find that?
About 800.
Exactly. No, wait, he says 52 million Americans. He says 52 million Americans live in economically distressed areas. Okay, didn't we have LBJ's like poverty improve great society? Wasn't that supposed to be infusing money into economically distressed areas?
No, that was a goal. But what LBG, what the war on poverty did was about it really 70 cents of every dollar didn't go to the poor. It went to social workers, counselors. In other words, it created a whole industry of people who made their living off of serving the poor. Only about 30% of it went directly to the poor. So we created a commodity out of poor people where the people serving them didn't ask which problems are solvable, but which ones are fundable. And that's why we've spent about $22 trillion over the last 50 years on programs that aid the poor. And we haven't even moved the needle that much at all.
Yeah, it's gotten worse, I think.
No, it didn't. But what is different, I think, about this and then the poverty program sent money to the states, and then they hired professionals who designed programs to the poor and then parachuted them into poor communities. And that's why it didn't work. What is different about this, it takes economically distressed communities, about 800 of them, that are starving of capital to start small businesses. And it will, rather than government spending the money, it will attract private investors who will come in and partner with local leaders. And as a consequence, they will get a tax, not a tax credit, but tax relief. In other words, if you invest for 10 years in these empowerment zones, you won't have to pay capital gains tax of about 10%. As long as it's invested in that community. Also, the government is going to do something about manpower training, and they'll be investing other dollars to help people prepare and also to try to make those communities safer.
Beautiful. Why don't we take a phone call now from Gretchen? Hi, Gretchen.
Hi, I'm so happy. I got some 4 things to say. One is, remember Jaime Escalante was teaching people down there, and Watts, his stamp is one of the U.S. stamps now. He taught them calculus. So he was a great man. Now, another person I love is Booker T. Washington. I taught school down there in 97, 8, and 9. For some years, they wanted white teachers, I'm Norwegian, to go down to the inner city from the Crips and Bloods. I wasn't afraid, but I was glad I was there. And so I wanted to say something. Booker T. Washington was such a wonderful story from beginning to end. He wanted education, and it made when he spoke, when he became president of his college, the Queen of England cried. Now, I know a man in Santa Monica who for $80,000 made a wonderful movie a few years ago called The First Rosa. She was a teacher, and she organized a school for children until the boll weevil came, I think, in Georgia. And they have the whole movie. It's an hour and 45. It's a short movie, but I wish that you could both see that. I'll try to get it for you from the man at the Lutheran church down there that made it.
Okay, thank you, Gretchen. Let's take a call now from Pam, who has a question for Dr. Woodson. Hi, Pam. You have a question for Dr. Woodson?
Yes. I think his Woodson Center is It's a great idea. And I was wondering if he has heard of the Secretary of HUD, Dr. Ben Carson, his Envision Centers, which is also working in the inner cities. And he has 4 different areas that he's working on. 1 is economic empowerment. 2 is character and leadership. 3 is health and wellness. And the 4th is educational advancement. And I was wondering if maybe the 2 of them can get together and work together to revitalize the inner cities throughout the country.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Pam. So, Dr. Woodson, she's saying, are you familiar with?
Yeah, I do know Dr. Carson's efforts, and those efforts will work together, because it's not enough just to put money in those communities. You got to prepare people. My organization will be working with local leaders to help train and prepare them to take advantage of these opportunities, because it's going to take some knowledge and some work.
Mm-hmm.
And so money doesn't change very much. It isn't just brick and mortar. You got to change the hearts and attitudes of people there.
Mm-hmm.
But there are already people who are doing some fantastic things to revitalize their communities. And so the challenge is to go and find them and then work side by side with them.
Well, who is the point person in Los Angeles? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't think they have a point person in Los Angeles. The next step is to identify leaders in these communities that have been so designated as empowerment zones, to find out what is the level of interest and the level of leadership in these communities. So the next task is to identify people there who are and the Woodson Center is going to be helping them to do that, because we have about 3,000 grassroots leaders
mm-hmm.
that we have trained in 39 states. So we have a broad network of people that we work with.
Yeah, I would like to I know some folks that I would like to actually recommend to you. In fact, I had Rock with the Youth ICANN Center. I think he would be fantastic.
Right, and we'll be looking. I think what they're going to be doing is putting out an announcement, letting you know what kind of people they're looking for. But and again, they from what I understand from the leadership there, they want people who are solution oriented.
Yeah,
not people who are just looking for another reason to complain and gripe.
Like theories, people who are like just into theories, like I say, I'm a results oriented person. I want
I'm a solutionist.
Yeah, I want results. Otherwise, if I'm not seeing results, I'm on to the next thing. Okay. And that's the way, I like to see success. I like to see the fruits of my labor. If it's not working, next. And this is why I say to Black Americans, we're going to be at zero median wealth by 2053. So how come you keep voting Democrat? Democrats are not working for you, folks. But the most beautiful thing that we've learned today is that when whites were at their worst, Blacks were at their best. I want people to, who's going to make a t-shirt saying that? That's a great, that t-shirt's, someone needs to, that's a seller right there. Make a t-shirt. When whites were at their worst, Blacks were at their best. Dr. Woodson, I love that one, right?
Right.
Okay, so go ahead.
So we need short-term ways. We all need to get together and inspire. See, at our conferences, we don't allow anybody to stand up and complain.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot raise a problem unless you have a solution. It may not be the solution.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody that has a meeting that's coming together to talk about solutions, that's what you ought to do. Do not permit anybody to bring up something that they don't have an answer to it.
Exactly. And, in other words, Black Americans have been voting Democrat for 5 decades. And all they do now is just call on, it's Hate Trump Day on Washington Journal. Here come the Black folks calling in. Hey, let me tell you how much I hate Trump.
Let me tell you something else about voting rights. This is part that gets me. Now, John Lewis, I'm talking about suppressing the black vote.
Mm-hmm.
Apathy is the worst suppressor of black votes you can. In Washington, D.C., Trenton, and Newark, you know what the voter turnout was in the low-income black neighborhoods of Washington, D.C. in the last mayor's race?
What?
Under 6%.
What?
Trenton, under 8%. Newark, 10%. So if you really want to know about the black suppression, why in low-income neighborhoods, blacks almost give it up because they don't have any options. They vote for the same black incumbents, and therefore they're politically banana republics. They're just single party areas.
Like that's how
and
California is a single party. They've been failing for 40 years. California is a single party. So you're saying blacks are just given, it's just like, whatever, forget it.
Every major city where you have these failures, Detroit, Newark, Trenton, Washington, D.C., you name it, they have been run by liberal Democrats for the last 40 to 50 years. And I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying the reality is, you know, if you keep doing something the same way and expect a different result, that's called insanity.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And you're saying blacks are just giving up. But, you know, all these civil rights folks, I mean, I'm sure you know John Lewis. What's his problem?
Yeah, I do.
What's his problem?
Well, you know, but, you know, John and people like him, they have just been, you know, absorbed by the Democratic Party. And you tell me, when's the last time have you heard a recommendation coming from the Black Caucus on how to revitalize communities and neighborhoods,
mm-hmm.
or how to reduce violence?
Mm-hmm.
Or when's the last time you heard an agenda?
That there's nothing.
It stops gentrification.
They're just hate Trump. You know, here we got Maxine Waters. I'm impeaching that man, and people are like, you know, it's like she's saying something.
Trump is the best thing that ever happened to her because now she doesn't have to explain why she doesn't have a legislative agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Woodson. I love having you on the show. We're going to have you on again. Okay?
Anytime.
Okay,
Happy
thank
New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to my Truth Warriors and Mythbusters. And don't forget to go to allsetnow.com and you get $15 worth of free food. Mention the Naked Truth Report and that you're a Truth Warrior so they know. You enter code SKYS Tacos. They have 3 locations, 5303 Pico Boulevard, 5200 Century Boulevard, and the Marina City Club. Code SKYS Tacos, allsetnow.com. Okay, Happy New Year, Truth Warriors, Mythbusters. I'll see you in the new year. Thank you.